You're listening to Exposure. It's XFM, and that is Queens of the Stone Age, Turning On The Screw, the opening track to the brand new album Era Vulgaris, in the shops next week, getting the Exposure album playback treatment tonight with Josh Homme, talking us through it track by track. That's a nice kind of psychedelic, kind of spiritual way to begin the album in a way, especially with that
yeah,
bit at the beginning. And it's kind of, there's a funkiness too, and it kind of reminds me of Kashmir by Led Zeppelin, maybe.
Yeah,
a tiny bit.
There's kind of there's those dissonant tones that have always been so sexy to me. You know, that has a sort of Moroccan or Eastern vibe to the way the chords are laid out. And one of my friends said that he thinks the song is arrogantly slow.
Arrogantly slow.
But I'm not sure but maybe there's something to how it's willing to not speed up, you know? I mean, even when it gets to the middle section there, it's the same tempo, it's just double time, and it all seems a bit bonehead to me, which I like, you know? I think funk to me comes from the repetition, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the drums sound great on that track.
Yeah, I think this is really Joey, and this record really lets Joey shine and shows people what he's capable of. You know.
And Turning On The Screw, lyrically, what insights can you give us to that?
You know, this song always reminds me, I come from a long line of smartasses, and it reminds me of, you know, sort of where you look over, where you're listening to someone and you just kind of spit and then go, oh yeah, what about that bridge you were going to sell earlier, you know? It's sort of like, it feels like, I don't even know how to describe it really, actually. It sort of feels like my generation, in a way, I feel like is kind of sort of a little more suspect, but with a comic twist, you know? And I think, or at least that's how I feel.
Yeah.
You know? I feel suspect without being bitter, but I love to hear someone's rap, basically. I think it's about listening to someone's jive.
Sick, Sick, Sick is the next track, and you mentioned earlier on that Julian Casablancas plays guitar on this song. How did you meet up with Julian?
I was playing drums in the Eagles of Death Metal, and we were opening up for the Strokes. And I've always been a big Strokes fan, and I really respect Julian's writing, and so it was kind of something we were looking to do. I'd played some drums on a cover song that they released with the Strokes. And,
right, what song was it?
They did Mercy, Mercy Me.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I never heard it, and Julian was like, it's terrible. But I never heard it, so I don't know. But it was a tit-for-tat situation, you know?
Yeah.
And so I really wanted him to come out and see what it was like where we were at, you know? And he sort of fell in love with this Casio digital guitar, which is like a mix between a keyboard and a guitar, and it's a terrible instrument, but the sounds are really, they're very individualized, you know?
Yeah.
And then he also sang in portions of the chorus and stuff too, which is great.
Right. I mean, it's quite a kind of pummeling rocker on it.
Yeah.
Sick, Sick, Sick.
Yeah, it was this sort of examination of one note and being used as Morse code to speak to the drums, which never play a fill but have this kind of ever-changing kick drum, you know? And then it was kind of lyrically about, you know, the fairy god prince of the gutter, sort of releasing everyone from unshackling them from their guilt and saying, like, I mean, I think this record as a whole is sort of like about my generation, what I think my generation is going through. It's tough in the age of information to make a decision, because every time you go to do it, more information comes, you know, and everything comes in these quick bites, and you go, is that real or is that fake? You know, everything can be masked so easily that it's like finding a needle in a stack of needles, the truth, you know?
Mm.
And so I think while you're trying to make a decision, you sample all the options, taste all the little truths. I think my generation is kind of stuck in the sampling, tasting section, you know? And I don't think they mind so much, and I don't really mind myself, you know. And so I think this song is about that tasting of the little truths, you know.
Right. Excellent. And this is it. This is Queens of the Stone Age on Exposure XFM with Sick, Sick, Sick. That is Queens of the Stone Age on Exposure XFM. I'm Designer from the brand new album Era Vulgaris. I'm John Kennedy, here with you until 1. And Josh Homme is with me tonight, talking us through it track by track. And you mentioned my generation a few times now, and you're trying to articulate in a way what you think about your generation and what, you know, I suppose our generation is kind of encountering in the modern world. And it seems to me I'm Designer is the most direct explanation of that, and it's such a great track. It's definitely one of my favourites on the record. The more I listen to it, it just seems to, the lyrics unfold, and there are more things that you're saying in it. It's
it felt like there needed to be one song that was a declaration of codependence, you know, and also I think maybe I hope it doesn't come across too finger pointing, because it's really not. It's more campily playing both sides, and because I really don't understand what's right. Gluttony bad or gluttony rad? Elitism is terrible if I'm not included, you know, or, you know, is money the root of all evil? But I need it because I need to pay rent, so nah. And do you want to go over here? So we need to pay for it, you know. Like, I really believe my generation, they want to have jobs like we have, and I totally agree. You know, I don't want to work at a steel mill.
Yeah.
You know, and so I don't have the answer, and I'm almost not interested in the answer, and I think my generation feels that way too. There's a darker side which the song plays on too, which is being famous for something that should be shameful, actually, you know. Some kind of mild retardation, you know, social retardation but I think, you know, it's really, the song is the declaration of scratching your head, you know, and I hope it doesn't come across too finger pointing.
Yeah. So rather than having a go, you're kind of saying this is your problem too, but you don't have an answer or a solution necessarily, and there are ups.
But that's the solution, I think, is
right.
that tasting, that taste testing continuously, you know, and I think the upside to this unresolved dilemma in the generation is that it makes you not focus on the big things and focus on your immediate area. You know, I think people would like to think it's one world, but it makes you feel helpless when it's such a big thing, you know. And so what it does for me is it makes me focus on the area around me and trying to improve that, more so than, you know, trying to solve every problem in the world. It doesn't make me want to be Bono. You know?
Right.
God bless him.
Yeah. There's room for Bonos and room for Josh Hommes.
He's able to do big things, and I'm able to barely manage the tinyish of things, you know.
So that's I'm Designer. The next track is Into the Hollow on the brand new Queens of the Stone Age album. And Into the Hollow, you said, Josh, was the one song that you had before you went into the studio. So how long ago did you have this song?
I'd had it for a while, and it was something that came almost right after Lullabies, and I just liked how it was it reminded me of Sly and the Family Stone beat-wise. It just, you know, it just had this kind of going to take you higher sort of push to it, and it just seemed to be, it came, as I said, came right after Lullabies, and the song seemed to be about blowing out the candle at the end of the night in a way, you know, and realizing why the night was over a little bit, and so it felt like it sort of rocked too without pushing too hard on that, you know, but just very. It was almost called The First Breath You Take After You Give Up, but it's a little more positive.
And this is it, Into the Hollow, Queens of the Stone Age, Exposure, XFM. You're listening to Exposure, it's XFM, it's John Kennedy with you until 1, and that is Queens of the Stone Age, Misfit Love, track number 5 from the brand new album Era Vulgaris, and those sounds in the background are provided by Josh Homme. He is here with me tonight, talking us through it track by track. Misfit Love has been described by the NME as guitar techno, and
wow.
and in the same
they're working overtime
little piece They they were quoting you as saying that Era Vulgaris is your dance record. It's the Queens of the Stone Age dance album. Is that the way you see it? Really?
I always felt like all the Queen's record are heavy on groove, and the desired goal is to get everyone to dance, because when people say, hey, if someone came to me and said, listen to this dance rock record, I'd probably be like, come on, man, let's be serious. But it is possible, and it's really rewarding. It's like I always shake my ass to the Kinks and stuff like that, and as well as James Brown and First Tricky Records and all this stuff that and I think rock and roll can dance with the best of them. You know? It doesn't so much anymore, but it should.
Yeah, well, it does sometimes. I mean, it definitely. So, I mean, we mentioned Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath have always had a groove to what they were doing, and you're right. I mean, Queens of the Stone Age have always had a groove to what you're doing.
And I think we really are. There's an attempt here to really push it forward and make it be at the forefront of what you notice first. More than ever for this. And Misfit Love is just. It's the best to me. It's the best representative of this record because it's got a strange arrangement in it, and it's the stacking of a bunch. It's a very dense song, both in that there's a lot of stuff stacked, and that the things that are stacked are kind of bonehead, so that they're easy to ingest,
And lyrically, have I got this right? Born to Lose, Born to Win?
Yeah, I actually just got Born to Win tattooed on me the other day. It says ain't born to lose, I'm born to win.
Oh, okay.
Because I think it's almost about an amalgam of my experience and Jesse Hughes from Eagles of Death Metal and some of the people that I've known from the desert who, when they move to the big city, they're like, wait till they get a load of me, and where you think you're going to come in and just, with greasy hair and kind of come into town and be like, how y'all doing? You'll never forget me. And just that, it's that before you make it to the city. Because what happens once you get there is up to you. But that sort of snotty, cocky, dirty bastard sort of vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. Born to Win is a great phrase. It's not used at all. I mean,
no, it's usually Born to Lose.
Yeah.
And I think, this amalgam of our experiences for this song has always had this drive of like, when people say stuff like Born to Lose, you almost look at them and go, really? Like you don't know better. That seems almost retarded in nature, like Born to Lose, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what makes this sort of character redeeming in this song is that it just wants to have a good time,
Battery Acid is the next track. Again, kind of really pounding drums on this song. What can you tell us about Battery Acid?
Well, I think both Misfit Love and Battery Acid for Joey are such great examples of his ability to make it look so easy and really have it be stellar to watch. It's just mystifying to me. I watch him play, and it's just you keep trying to challenge him where he can't do something, and he just can, And Troy as such an articulate noisemaker, So
I love that. Is that on a card he hands out?
Yeah, it says number unlisted, And he just, we always have this discussion about, can you make it sound like drunk robots or dying robots or robots used for the incorrect job? That's kind of the phrases we use. And, on Battery Acid, Troy was able to make dying robots doing their incorrect job sounding drunk all in one go, And I think I like the song because it always goes to the wrong note. It's just, it seems like bad news on four wheels, So I think it's kind of about, those moments where you feel like, well, I ain't got a choice, damn it, here we go, and lyrically and being resigned to what it is, So I think it's a nice representation of like, there seems to be a lot of spitting on this record, where it's like, we ain't got a choice, let's go, So there you go, Battery Acid.
That is Battery Acid, Queens of the Stone Age, on Exposure XFM. Josh Homme is here tonight talking us through the new album, Era Vulgaris, track by track. And what's that sound effect at the end there, Josh, of Battery Acid?
That's actually my guitar amp.
Right.
Going into, overload and dying right after the song was over. I couldn't shut it down. And it was so painful that we were like, let's share it with the kids. Leave, I'm here to overtalk it and then here to blow your ears out, so.
And Make It Wit Chu is the next track. And you mentioned Sly and the Family Stone with relation to Into the Hollow. I think this has a Sly and the Family Stone feel to it, especially the backing vocals.
Yeah, it's got like a Stonesy Sly, and it just, this was on a Desert Sessions as well, and it's the most real and heartfelt song that I've ever been able to play that's about screwing, basically. I mean, it's also the definitive version of this, and I mean, I don't mean to debase it or make it so easy, but there's something beautiful about that physical connection when you feel like, maybe this record ultimately is about the different varieties of emotions where you feel like you don't have a choice, that you have to. It's a need and not a want, And I think this song encapsulates the kind of the obsession of wanting to be with somebody, and where anytime, anywhere is pretty much sums it up.
Right, excellent. Queens of the Stone Age gets smoochy in a way. This is it. Make It Wit Chu on Exposure XFM. Threes and Sevens is the next track on the record. It was also the first single. Threes and Sevens, what's that all about?
Well, it's like they're prime numbers, and it feels like we're just getting into our prime now, and also it also felt like the chorus lyric says it all for this song. If ignorance is bliss, that I'm in heaven. And I often feel that way. So.
It's a fine state to be in. Threes and Sevens, Queens of the Stone Age, on Exposure XFM. That is Queens of the Stone Age with Threes and Sevens from the brand new album Era Vulgaris. He's in heaven. Ignorance is bliss. Josh Homme is on XFM tonight, talking us through the brand new album. Suture Up Your Future is the next song, and what a great title. I mean, do you come up with these titles first sometimes? Or?
A lot of the time, yeah. I take it wherever I can get it. I'm not picky. I'm glad to be attached to something that I feel passionate about, and I actually wrote this song here while I was we played Hyde Park last year.
Yeah, with the Foo Fighters.
And I was standing, I was staying across the street, and I was standing on like the 10th floor or something, looking out the window, and it was our first gig in a while, and it was kind of the end of an era for us, because we knew we were about to go in and do all this stuff, and really felt like we had shaken the lead jacket of the year before, and I was like, I'll be damned if I'm not going to suture up my future, and it just sort of happened,
Yeah. And why did the year before feel like a lead jacket then?
Well, I think because of all the because I think our stupid personal differences in our band took precedence over the music, which was strange for me, and I also felt like instead of putting out Songs for the Deaf 2, we made it so that we never would have to worry about that again. And I also felt like for a moment it got really self-absorbed and freaky, and so it was time to go home and do the dishes and laundry. And I felt like I'd done enough laundry and dishes and that we were going to make it all right,
Yeah. And is all of that then put into the Suture Up Your Future?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's about like being comfortable with what's been done, and feeling like, like I said, like, I'll be damned if I'm not going to go suture up my future, So it's good. It's got to be real or it isn't.
Yeah. And this is it. Suture Up Your Future. Queens of the Stone Age. Exposure. XFM. Queens of the Stone Age on Exposure XFM. That is River in the Road, track 10 from the brand new album Era Vulgaris. I'm John Kennedy, and with me tonight is Josh Homme.
You were doing so good.
I know. I was kind of being
You were
quite
my
fluent and everything, but you can't have everything.
You're my fave.
River in the Road, you mentioned, has Mark Lanigan singing on it.
Yeah.
Mark has obviously a long-term relationship with the band.
Yeah.
And he seems to be able to juggle many different projects at the moment. A man who can record a duet album, in effect, with Isabel Campbell and record another with Greg Dooley and then come and hang out with you people. And then
Well, it what's great about is that, Mark's always got a hall pass with us. He can always just come and go as he pleases without ever having to worry about it. And I love hearing Mark's voice, and I love working with Mark. And so it doesn't take much when you're a sucker for somebody's thing, you know what I mean? And this song was about, first of all, it's a samba, which seemed really exciting to play, to a rock and roll samba, and then it was kind of this song about feeling like it's about sacrifice and saying like, no, you go, and the first line says fast approaching monsters, and so it seemed perfect for Mark, like, hey, like, if you were gonna meet a monster, you wish you'd go like, how you doing, and so Mark is perfect for that.
And I mean that kind of relationship that the two of you have. I mean, I'm trying to remember my history right, but after Kaya split up, you toured with Screaming Trees, playing extra guitar. And
on their last record, I was kind of a hired gun, basically.
Yeah. And then he kind of came in when Screaming Trees broke up and kind of hung out with you.
Yeah, I had
the Stone Age. And
I had this idea that, that his voice and our strange brand of music would be like chocolate and peanut butter and be really good, and I've really enjoyed tasting that over the years, and I love stretching Mark, and I know he loves like, filtering through stuff and finding the right thing that really speaks to him and what's going on too. So I love working with Mark.
Run Pig Run is the next track and the last track. So I didn't want to. That sounded like I was just right. Yeah, very well.
So that's it.
Well, I didn't know what to say because you expressed it so well.
No, but it's such a great segue. Like, some things for me are just really great. It's like, saying Queens of the Stone Age. That the joke of that has been played on me so many times, where someone. It's like, oh, what band are you in? And I'm like, oh, Queens of the Stone Age.
You've never boiled it down to QOTSA? You've never...
It's even worse when you go like, yeah, I'm in Queens.
Right.
We're all a bunch of Queens. And for someone's granny, it's always like very strange, and there's no way to get around it, and so I just jump in there,
Yeah.
And Run Pig Run has that same element, because it doesn't sound like a song about fellowship and communion.
It's true, and that was the direction my questioning was going to run in. So who's the pig?
Yeah.
But I mean, in comparison to the new samba direction that you explored with River in the Road, that you were just talking about, I mean, this is
this has
down.
jungle. This has jungle rhythm to the nth degree, though. It's like that bugga 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 bugga. Oh well, we haven't heard it yet, but you'll hear what I mean, and there's this percussion quarter note that puts the dance on this heavy piece of music, and then it's got. I've been listening to a lot of gypsy music and stuff like that, and so, the gypsy music I like really has a detuned sort of almost sexy. It almost sounds sometimes crippled in a way because it's kind of warbling,
Are there particular artists that you like, or is
no?
it
It's
just
always
a general
this traditional, like they got a Nagra tape recorder at the right time with some Transylvanian gypsies for a moment, and I also love that because I've always felt that in common with what we do. You just get a moment of this thing that passes, and it's about appreciating the moment, and I feel like this song is the only really rugged song subject-wise that's really sort of like where the subject matter is that angry, because it's been nice to let go and of such an easy emotion to feel, you know, and get more into the love side of everything. But it's good to have a little bit of piss and vinegar too, you know, as they say.
So you get to let it out on this track.
Yeah, this encapsulates it, where, you know, that moment where you feel like it's not up to somebody else what happens. You just, you know, with that moment where it's like you don't have a choice. Which is kind of a reoccurring theme, but this time it's in a different manner, you know. Revenge is sweet.
It's been great to have you back here, Josh.
Thank you. It's been great to be here again.
Thanks for talking us through the album, and this is the last track. So I meant to ask, I mean, it's kind of almost a more honed, more direct album, this. You know, it's not 16 tracks, it's like 11 tracks, that's it.
It's for the era Vulgaris, made by the era Vulgaris. Tight, short, and springy.
And you can definitely hear the spring in this. Run, Big Run. Queens of the Stone Age.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me here.